The moment I pulled Asher aside at his own wedding reception, my heart hammered so hard I thought it might burst. "Asher, I can't let you do this without knowing," I said, voice shaking. "I've been in love with you for 8 years. Asher stared at me, champagne glass frozen halfway to his lips, the string lights of the Chicago rooftop venue blurring behind him. Guests laughed and danced only 20 feet away, but the world narrowed to just the two of us. His blue eyes widened, the same eyes I had memorized since our freshman year at the University of Illinois, and for one terrible second I saw the exact moment everything we had built cracked wide open. He opened his mouth, closed it, then finally whispered, "Colin, what?" I had rehearsed this 1,000 times in my head, but nothing prepared me for the real thing. My hands were slick with sweat. I could smell the gardenias from Emily's bouquet still clinging to his tuxedo jacket. 8 years of swallowing every glance, every late-night text, every time his laugh made my chest ache. All of it rushed out in one breathless confession. I watched his face shift from confusion to shock to something that looked dangerously close to panic. It had started so innocently back in Chicago. We met in intro to creative writing, two 19-year-olds who both hated group projects but loved bad coffee from the student union. Asher was the golden boy from California. Tall, easy smile, always surrounded by people. While I was the quiet kid from rural Indiana who still flinched when my dad used the word soft. We were assigned to the same workshop group, and the first time he read my short story out loud, he looked up and said, "Dude, you get it. You really get it." That was the hook. Within weeks we were roommates, then inseparable. Road trips to Milwaukee, all-night study sessions, him dragging me to parties I would have skipped. I told myself it was just friendship. Strong friendship. The kind guys are allowed to have. But junior year, during spring break, we drove to the Dells in his beat-up Jeep. Snow was still on the ground, and we pulled over at a rest stop at 2 in the morning. He turned down the radio and said, "You know you're my best friend, right? Like, the one person I'd call if everything went to hell." I looked at him under the dashboard light and felt something shift inside my chest. Something warm and terrifying. That night, I lay awake in the motel while he slept 2 feet away, realizing I was in love with my best friend. And I knew, even then, that saying it out loud would ruin everything. So I buried it. I dated girls I didn't care about. I smiled at his girlfriends. I cheered when he got his first marketing job in Chicago after graduation. I stood beside him when he proposed to Emily last year, clapping like my heart wasn't splintering. Every holiday visit home to Indiana, my parents asked when I was bringing a nice girl around, and I lied through my teeth. My dad still talked about real men and family values, and I couldn't imagine what he would say if he knew his only son was in love with another man. Now here we were, 8 years later, at Asher's wedding reception. The ceremony was in an hour. Emily was upstairs in her gown, laughing with her bridesmaids, and I had just dropped an atomic bomb. Asher ran a hand through his blonde hair, the way he always did when he was overwhelmed. "Colin, this isn't funny. Tell me you're joking." His voice cracked on the last word. "I wish I was," I said quietly. "But I can't watch you marry her without you knowing the truth. I've loved you since that night in the Jeep. Every single day." I tried to stop. God, I tried. He took a step back, nearly knocking over a waiter carrying a tray of flutes. The noise of the party seemed to fade even further. I could see the calculations running behind his eyes, the years of shared apartments, vacations, inside jokes, and how every one of them now looked different. "Colin, I love you, man, but not like..." He stopped, swallowed hard. "This is my wedding day." I nodded, throat burning. "I know. That's why I had to say it now, before it was too late." But even as the words left my mouth, I realized it already was. Asher didn't answer right away. He just stood there, staring at the city skyline like it might give him the script for what to say next. I waited, heart in my throat, watching the man I had loved in silence for nearly a decade try to process the fact that his best man was in love with him. The string quartet started playing something soft and romantic, and the irony almost made me laugh. Almost. Finally he said, "We need to talk. Not here." He grabbed my elbow and steered me toward the service stairs, away from the guests. We ended up in a dimly lit hallway that smelled like fresh paint and roses. The door clicked shut behind us, sealing out the party. 8 years? He repeated, voice low. Colin, we've been best friends since we were 19. You never said anything. You dated Sarah for 2 years. You helped me pick out Emily's ring. I know, I said. My voice sounded hollow even to me. I thought if I ignored it long enough it would go away. I told myself I was just protective, or lonely, but it never went away. Every time you smiled at me, every time you crashed on my couch after a bad date, it got worse. I went to therapy. I dated other guys in secret after I moved to the city. None of them lasted because they weren't you. Asher leaned against the wall, loosening his tie like it was choking him. I had no idea. None. You always seemed straight. The way you talked about girls, the way you... I was acting. I cut in. For you. For my family. For everyone. My dad still thinks I'm going to settle down with some nice church girl back in Indiana. Mom sends me articles about finding the right woman. Couldn't tell them. Couldn't tell you. Until today. He closed his eyes. Today of all days, Colin. Emily is upstairs right now. Her parents flew in from Seattle. My mom is out there crying happy tears because she thinks I finally found the one. He opened his eyes again, and they were glassy. What am I supposed to do with this? I wanted to reach for him, but I kept my hands at my sides. You don't have to do anything. I'm not asking you to call off the wedding. I'm not asking for anything. I couldn't live with myself if I let you say, I do, without knowing the whole truth. Silence stretched between us. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. Asher rubbed his face. I need air. I need to think. He pushed past me toward the exit door that led to the fire escape. I followed because walking away felt impossible. Outside, the October wind off Lake Michigan cut straight through my suit jacket. Below us, traffic moved along Michigan Avenue like nothing had changed. Do you remember freshman orientation? He asked suddenly, voice softer. You were the only person who didn't make fun of my California accent. You just handed me a coffee and said, welcome to the Midwest, dude. You'll get used to it. That was the first time I felt like I belonged somewhere. I nodded. I remember. He looked at me then, really looked. You've been carrying this alone for 8 years? Yeah. God, Colin. His voice broke. I don't know what to feel right now. Part of me is angry you waited. Part of me is I don't know. Scared. Confused. He shook his head. Emily deserves better than this. I deserve better than finding out like this. I know. I whispered. I'm sorry. He stared out at the lake for a long moment. The ceremony starts in 45 minutes. I have to go back in there and smile like everything is fine. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Then go. I'll stay out here. Or I can leave. Whatever you need. He turned to face me fully. For a second I thought he might hug me, the way he always did after tough conversations. But he just stood there, arms hanging useless at his sides. I can't process this right now. I need time. I understand. He started to walk back inside, then paused at the door. Don't disappear on me. Okay? We'll talk after everything. I nodded, even though I wasn't sure there would be an after. When the door closed behind him, I sank down onto the cold metal steps and finally let the tears come. 8 years of love, and I had just handed it to him on the worst possible day. The ceremony happened without me. I watched from the back row, hidden behind a pillar, as Asher stood at the altar and promised to love Emily forever. His voice was steady, but I saw the way his eyes flicked toward the empty seat where I should have been standing as best man. Emily looked radiant. The crowd cheered when they kissed. I slipped out before the recessional, driving aimlessly through Chicago until the city lights blurred into streaks of color. I ended up at the little apartment we had shared right after college. The one we called the shoebox because it was so tiny. I still had the key. Inside, the air smelled like him, like the cedarwood cologne he wore and the Thai takeout we ordered every Friday. I sat on the couch and stared at the wall where we had hung our first joint photo, taken on that Dell's trip. 2 kids who thought the world was simple. My phone buzzed. Mom. I let it go to voicemail. She had texted earlier asking for pictures of the wedding. I couldn't face her questions tonight. Instead, I opened the folder on my phone labeled, "For Asher." Thousands of photos spanning 8 years. Beach trips to California where his family welcomed me like I belonged. Thanksgiving in Indiana where he charmed my skeptical parents. Late nights editing his marketing presentations while he edited my short stories. Every memory now carried the weight of what I had hidden. The next morning my phone exploded with missed calls. Asher. Emily. Our mutual friend Maya. I answered Asher's 3rd attempt. "Where are you?" he asked without greeting. His voice was rough, like he hadn't slept either. "Shoebox. I'm coming over." He arrived 20 minutes later, still in his wedding tux, jacket off, bow tie undone. Emily was with her parents, he said. They thought he was handling best man stuff. He sat across from me at the tiny kitchen table and ran both hands through his hair. "I didn't sleep," he said. "I kept replaying every conversation we've ever had, looking for signs. And they were there, Colin. The way you always saved the last slice of pizza for me. The way you drove 4 hours to pick me up when my car broke down in Milwaukee. I never let myself see it because I didn't want to lose you." "You're not losing me," I said quietly. "I'm still your friend. I always will be." He looked at me with something raw in his eyes. "But everything feels different now. I can't unhear what you said. I can't look at you the same way." The words landed like stones. I nodded anyway. "I know. That's why I waited so long. I knew this might happen." We sat in silence for a while. Then he asked the question I had dreaded. "Did you ever think about telling me sooner? Like, before Emily?" "Every day," I admitted. "But you were happy. You talked about her like she was the missing piece. I didn't want to be the reason you questioned that." He stood up abruptly and walked to the window. "I love her, Colin. I do. But last night, standing up there, all I could think about was you sitting in the back row. And that made me feel like the worst person alive. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing." He turned back to me. "I need time. Emily and I are leaving for the honeymoon in 2 days. When I get back, we'll figure this out. But right now, I can't be around you without feeling like I'm betraying someone." I swallowed hard. "Take all the time you need." He left without hugging me. The door clicked shut, and the apartment felt emptier than it ever had. That afternoon I booked a one-way ticket to Seattle. My cousin had offered me a job at his tech startup months ago. I had turned it down because I couldn't imagine leaving Asher. Now it felt like the only way to breathe. Seattle was supposed to be a fresh start. The rain matched my mood perfectly. I threw myself into the new job, learning code and drinking too much coffee in hipster cafes. I went on a few dates with nice guys I met through apps. Teachers, baristas, a graphic designer named Theo who made me laugh. But every time someone touched my arm or smiled at me, I compared them to Asher. They never measured up. 3 months passed. Asher and I texted, but the messages were careful. "How's the weather?" "Work crazy." Never anything real. Then one night my phone rang at 2 a.m. It was his number. I answered before I could think. "Colin." His voice was thick with tears. "Emily and I were separating. She found the texts from our bachelor party weekend. The ones where I told you I was having doubts. She thinks there's more to it. She thinks I'm hiding something." I sat up in bed, heart racing. "Are you okay?" "No, I'm not. I keep thinking about what you said at the wedding, about how you loved me for 8 years. And I keep wondering if maybe part of me felt it too and I was too scared to look." The words hung between us across 3 time zones. I didn't know how to respond. "Can I come see you?" he asked. "I need to talk in person. I can't do this over the phone." I should have said no. I should have protected myself. Instead I said, "My couch is yours." He arrived 4 days later, looking thinner and older. We didn't hug at the airport. The drive back to my apartment was quiet except for the rain on the windshield. Once inside, he dropped his bag and finally looked at me. "I left her," he said simply. "Not because of you. Because I realized I was marrying her for the wrong reasons. Because I was scared of what I might feel if I stayed single. And now I'm scared of what I might feel if I admit you weren't the only one confused. I poured us both whiskey and we sat on the couch, the same model we had in the shoebox. He told me about the fights, the therapy sessions, the way Emily had cried when she asked if he was in love with someone else. He told me he had started questioning everything. His past relationships, the way he always sought me out first in any crisis. I don't know if I'm gay, he said finally. I don't know what I am, but I know that losing you hurt worse than losing her. And that terrifies me. I set my glass down. You don't have to label anything tonight, or ever. I'm not asking you to be with me. I'm here. However you need me. He reached over and took my hand. The touch was electric after so many months of distance. I missed you, he whispered. God, I missed you. That night we talked until the sun came up. We cried. We laughed at old memories. We didn't kiss. We didn't cross any lines. But something shifted between us again. Something honest and fragile and new. The next 6 months were a careful dance. Asher stayed in Seattle, found a marketing job downtown, and moved into the spare bedroom. We cooked dinner together like old times, went hiking on weekends, and slowly rebuilt trust. Some nights he would sit across from me and ask questions. About when I first knew, about the guys I had dated, about how I had survived hiding it all. Other nights we just watched movies and pretended the tension wasn't there. My family found out in the worst way possible. My sister saw a photo of Asher and me on my social media and called my parents. Dad's voice on the phone was ice. Is this why you ran off to Seattle? For him. Mom cried. I tried to explain that it wasn't like that Asher and I were figuring things out, but the damage was done. They stopped answering my calls. Asher's family was kinder. His mom hugged me when they visited and said, "We always wondered why you two were so close." His dad clapped me on the shoulder and told me I was still family. The contrast hurt more than I expected. Work was another battlefield. A new manager made snide comments about the roommate situation. I started keeping my personal life quieter at the office. Asher faced the same thing at his firm. We learned to navigate the world as two men who might be more than friends, and the constant vigilance wore on us both. One weekend we drove down the coast to Oregon. We rented a cabin overlooking the ocean. On the second night, sitting by the fire, Asher turned to me and said, "I think I'm falling in love with you too, but I'm terrified of messing this up. I don't want to lose you again." I reached for his hand. "Then don't run. We take it slow. One day at a time." He nodded, but I could see the fear in his eyes. Back in Seattle, life kept testing us. My dad had a heart attack. I flew home alone because Asher thought it would make things worse. When I got there, Dad looked small in the hospital bed. He grabbed my hand and whispered, "I don't understand it, son, but I don't want to lose you either." It was the closest thing to acceptance I had ever heard from him. When I returned, Asher was waiting at the airport with flowers and takeout from our favorite Thai place. That night we kissed for the first time, soft, tentative, full of 8 years of waiting. It wasn't fireworks. It was home. A year after the wedding that never quite happened the way anyone planned. Asher and I stood on the same Chicago rooftop where I had confessed everything. The venue was hosting a different wedding this time, but we had sneaked up to the fire escape anyway. The city lights glittered below us like they had that night. "I almost lost you because I was scared," Asher said, pulling me close. "I almost married someone else because I was scared of what loving you would mean." I rested my forehead against his. "And I almost let fear keep me silent forever." We had come so far. Therapy together. Family dinners where my mom awkwardly asked Asher about his job, and my dad pretended not to notice when we held hands under the table. Late nights talking about the future, maybe adopting, maybe moving back to California where his family was. The world hadn't gotten easier, but we had gotten stronger. Asher smiled at me, the same smile that had hooked me all those years ago. "Thank you for being brave enough to tell me, even if it was at the worst possible moment." I laughed softly. Worst timing ever, but worth it. We kissed under the city lights, and for the first time in 8 years I felt completely at peace. The road had been long and painful, full of misunderstandings and tears and almost lost friendships, but we had chosen each other anyway. True or false? Confessing your true feelings to your best friend is always worth the risk, even if it comes too late.